I can remember the day I came to his dorm room to tell him about the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Here's a man that was drinking a 40 ounce and smoking a cigarette. I didn't care nothing about that. I'm in his face telling him about the teachings, and he came in the Nation of Islam. Because the power of this teaching gives you the power to throw down the cigarettes, throw down the alcohol. Now you got to think about it. What can make black people stop eating swine? I haven't eaten swine in 15 years, right? And I'm a brother who grew up on meat and bread. Never ate vegetables. You give me a plate of vegetables, I'll cuss you out. I'm talking about before I became a Muslim. So now what can make us throw the pig feet down, throw the chitlins down, throw the pork chops down, throw the crispy bacon down? What can make us give it up? What can make us get rid of the women in our lives and be good by the one woman that is in our life? Now I'm going to tell you something about myself when I first became a Muslim. Because see, we make the mistake of thinking that the only person who got changed by the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad was Malcolm X, and that's not true. When I was processing, I wasn't even in the Nation of Islam. I just came to the mosque and said, look, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. And when I finished with that book, I said, look, I want to be a Muslim. And I didn't know anything about Minister Farrakhan or anything. I just know that I wanted to be a Muslim. So I came to college, I met some Muslims, came to the mosque. They could have said anything. I was joining, that's why I came. They could have said the sky's blue, who wants to join? And I would have raised my hand. They could have said the floor is brown, who wants to join? I would have raised my hand. Because I came to join, y'all follow what I'm saying? So now, I came and said, look, I want to be a Muslim. And just so happens in my algebra class, there was a beautiful sister that sat right behind me. And she used to always look at me with the googly eyes. And I looked at her the same way. And next thing you know, we had a little, relationship going on. And I'm still processing to be a Muslim. So one night, I'm in the back of the college campus, just pitch black, dark, in a car, butt naked with a sister. And she's butt naked too. Now, some of y'all are going to get mad at me for what I'm about to tell you. But see, I wanted to be a Muslim more than I wanted to be with a butt naked sister. In the car, windows steamed up. I'm telling you what I went through. And I had to make up my mind, naked in a car. Do I want to be a Muslim follower of the honorable Elijah Muhammad? Or do I want to have sex with this fine, voluptuous black woman? And most people would say, I heard a brother just whisper it. Sex. I heard it. But no, what did I choose? I chose to be a Muslim follower of the honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I stopped. I said, I can't do it. Now y'all are saying that nigga is a punk, because I would have hit it, then just became a Muslim right after that. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to show you the power of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Even some of these sisters are looking at me like, damn, what the hell is wrong with him? I mean, if I was in a situation like that, I know what I would, but I'm just telling you about the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Let's move on. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad did many great things. I'm just going to run through the list real quick because I want to deal with the actual facts of the assassination of Malcolm X. Are y'all ready? He opened up 42 Muhammad University of Islam's independent education for black people. Is that right? He started the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, which sold 1 million copies a issue for black people. Is that right? He opened the first printing press, black owned and operated, in the United States of America. He owned millions of acres, and when I say he, it's not he individually, but it's the Nation of Islam collectively. Is everybody with me? So, we own millions of acres of farmland under his leadership. And from the farmland, he had a fleet of 18-wheeler trucks. Like Walmart has a fleet, right? Like Sears has a fleet, to ship the food from the farms that we own as black people to the grocery stores that we own. He opened up a chain of grocery stores for black people. Y'all got that? Printing press, Muhammad Speaks, independent education. All for who? All for black people, right? That's not it. He opened up dry cleaners and laundromats and restaurants all over the United States. For who? For black people, right? This man imported fish from Peru because the fish from Peru, the waters are not polluted, right? So that he could sell black people clean fish. And under his leadership, the Nation of Islam was the #1 fish importer. If you drive down Stony Island and go to 69th and Stony, That gray building was the bank that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad opened for who? For black people. Gave us loans at low interest rates. That was the black-owned bank. He opened a shipping line because he brought in products from Japan, household products, sold them to black people at lower prices so we could save that money and use that money to improve our standard of living. You heard of Sam Walton, or you heard of Walmart. You heard of Walmart, right? It started by Sam Walton. Sam's Club, right? He got that idea from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He's the man that opened up the warehouse first, and then let people come in the warehouse and buy their products at a cheaper price from products that he imported from Japan. Is everybody with me? He owned real estate all over the country, houses, apartment complexes, sold it to black people at lower prices, rented it to black people at lower prices so black people could save money. Y'all with me? Here's a man that was going to open up a hospital for black people. Y'all know what the South Shore Cultural Center is, right? He gave the city of Chicago $1 million and was going to turn it into a college. For who? For black people. But the city gave him his money back and said, no, thank you. Then he said, we'll do him one better. He said, I'll just buy the whole south side of Chicago. Now, I want you to think about this. The leaders of today, other than the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, don't even think like this. What leader said, look, I'm just going to buy the whole south side of a city for black people? None of them, right? But I just want to get you acquainted with the greatness of this man so that you can see that for him to do that, he had to be backed by Almighty God Allah. Now, a lot of people like to charge the most honorable Elijah Muhammad with a lot of wrongdoing. They say, well, the reason that Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam is because Elijah Muhammad was jealous of him. Why would Elijah Muhammad be jealous of a man that he made? Are y'all with me? See, you have to understand the strategy of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of those businesses I just named. See, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad needed somebody to be out front, handling the press, handling the various mosques all across the nation, so that he could do what? So he could use his time and his energy to build a nation for black people. Are y'all following what I'm saying? So he was using Malcolm X in that capacity, because as he was developing the businesses for the nation, he had Malcolm X out front representing the nation. But where did he get the wisdom from? He got it from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I want to read to you a letter, not the whole letter, just the first paragraph, that Malcolm X wrote to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1959. He says, "Dear Holy Apostle, I do not like to burden you with personal troubles of my own, but I feel obligated to you to enclose the facts that are contained in this letter. It is you, thanks to Allah, who made me what I am today, and I owe my life and my entire being to you, even though I know all praise is due to Allah." Malcolm X at that time was under no illusion of how he became who he was. The teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad made him into a world leader. Now you have to keep in mind that this is a man that got out of jail from being in there for 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days, right? And it wasn't, I know some of y'all watched the movie, there wasn't a person in jail that introduced him to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. His brother had become a Muslim, his blood brother. And his brother came to him in prison and told him about the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Said, I can get you out of jail if you stop eating pork. Notice that's the first thing he told him. Stop eating pork. Some of y'all may need to stop eating pork. We'll talk about that on another night. And so Malcolm eventually did what? Accepted the teachings, became a model prisoner, right? He got out of jail and was an ex-con. Now, if you've ever been to jail on a felony and you got out, then you know nobody's going to hire you, right or wrong. Right. You know that you're not going to become the president of the SCLC as an ex-con. You know that you can't even run for political office, right? Being an ex-con. You know that the NAACP is not going to accept you as an ex-con. You know the Urban League is not going to take you and make you a world leader and you went to jail on a robbery charge. They're not going to do that, is that right? So now, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad brought this man out of prison, right? And made him into a world leader. Malcolm X went all over the world. representing the Nation of Islam. See, people say, well, when he went to Mecca, he found out that there were white Muslims. And that's why he left the Nation of Islam. Because Elijah Muhammad said that the white man was the devil, right? And he couldn't be a Muslim. But he went to Mecca and he saw white Muslims. You heard that before, right? But see, what they don't tell you is Malcolm went to Mecca in 1959 as a representative of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. He had already gone throughout the whole Middle East and met a lot of white Muslims. In fact, when he came back from the Middle East, he had a slideshow in New York where he was the minister. And he showed them how there was racism even in the Middle East. Because there's racism there now, and there was racism there then. Are y'all with me? See, the only person that wants us is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. The Orthodox Muslims, the Arab Muslims don't want you. They want you if you come here and say you're a Muslim first, then you meet them, yeah, then they'll accept you. But they don't want you as a gangbanger. They don't want you as a drug dealer. The church don't want you. You going to church throwing up the GD sign. Talking about GD. They don't want you. Talking about we four-corner hustlers, right? Talking about I just got out of prison on a triple homicide. The church don't want you. The white Christians, they don't want you. But if you become a Muslim, now they want you. You understand what I'm saying? They talk about how we got to win the people back because all these black men are becoming Muslims. But before, did they want you? They didn't want you before. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad is the only one that wanted us. So he accepted Malcolm X straight out of prison, made him the minister in New York, right? And see, we can't take away any of the work that Malcolm X did while he was in the Nation of Islam. I'm going to read to you a verse out of the Holy Quran. We're talking about the Holy Quran, chapter 9, verse 120. Y'all got that? Write it down. Holy Quran, chapter 9, verse 120. It says, surely Allah waste not the reward of the doers of good. So as Muslims today, we can't take anything away from Malcolm X. What did he do when he was in the Nation of Islam? He used to write a column in the Pittsburgh Courier representing the most honorable Elijah Muhammad called God's Angry Men. This man was instrumental in starting the newspaper Muhammad Speaks, which is now called The Final Call. Y'all got that? This man opened mosques for the honorable Elijah Muhammad all over the country. We're talking about Malcolm X. He headed one of the best mosques, which was in New York City, right? Mosque number 7. Now, some of you may have met a brother before or sister, and they invited you out to the mosque. You saw them out on the street, and they said, hey, just come to the mosque. We want you to come here, such and such, so-and-so, right? Do you know who started that? Malcolm X started that. Going out actively, bringing people to the mosque. He started that. So we have to give credit where credit is due. See, we call Elijah Muhammad the honorable Elijah Muhammad because Malcolm X introduced that to the Nation of Islam. Y'all with me? Now some of y'all may say, why he got to be honorable? But we don't say that when the judge who was locking us away for 20 years, the honorable white racist judge, will you please stand? And if you don't stand, you're in contempt of court, right or wrong. We don't protest when they're called honorable. But here's a man that changed the lives of millions of people. He is very honorable. Now, he went all over the country representing the Nation of Islam on television and on radio. So we can't take away the work of Malcolm X. But we want to know, why did Malcolm X leave the Nation of Islam? That's what we want to know. Is that right? See, the thing that people never tell you about is the type of relationship that Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had. They had a father and son relationship. Now I want you, if you have children, I want you to think about that. You have a child who you shared with him knowledge and wisdom. You share with him things that are making him successful. You correct the mistakes that he makes, right? Now, if this son becomes successful, are you going to seek the death of your own son? Now, I'm a school teacher, and I share knowledge with my students. And if one of them takes what I teach them and becomes great in the future, I'm not going to be angry with them. If they use what I taught and it caused them to become great, then I'm going to be what? I'm going to be happy for them. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, when Malcolm X was the minister in New York, paid him a salary of $1,000 a week. Now, most of us in this room don't get paid $1,000 a week right now. We're talking about in the 1950s when $1,000 was real money. You don't get paid $1,000, you might, some of y'all. I don't get paid $1,000 a week, right? Now, not only that, but he paid for all of his expenses. When he traveled all over the country, Malcolm X didn't have to pay for that. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad paid for it. When Malcolm X needed a car, guess who bought the car? Malcolm X didn't have to buy the car. The honorable Elijah Muhammad bought the car, the one that said Malcolm X College. He bought that car for Malcolm X, and the one before that. Malcolm X lived in what you would call a mini mansion, right? In New Rochelle, New York. And guess who paid the mortgage on the house? Not Malcolm X, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. He told him, look, I don't want you to move unless you got $500 in your pocket. You can't even move unless you got $500 in your pocket. Why did he do that? See, people never tell you the love that Elijah Muhammad had for Malcolm X. They leave that out, so when they lie and say that he was jealous of him, you'll believe that foolishness. But this is a man who loved Malcolm X, treated him like a son, cared for the man, gave him wisdom, and that wisdom exalted Malcolm X in the world. Y'all with me? This man met with Fidel Castro. He met with Kwame Nkrumah. He met with the king of Saudi Arabia when the king came to America. Now, you tell me another ex-con that meets with kings and rulers. Come on, I'm listening. Most kings don't even want you around them if you've been to jail. But here's a man that was brought out of prison and made a world leader by the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Now, see, the government, see, you can't study Malcolm X's life. You can't study the Nation of Islam if you don't study the government of the United States of America and what they did to try to destroy black people in the 1950s and 60s. So I'm just going to share with you a little information about what did the government do to destroy the Nation of Islam. Y'all got that? What did the government do to destroy the Nation of Islam? Now there's a thing called COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO is the counterintelligence program of J. Edgar Hoover. This program was started in 1956. COINTELPRO started in 1956. It was started to destroy the Communist Party. Now I'm going to tell you what they did to the Communist Party. And you tell me, does it sound familiar? They sent their agents into the Communist Party, right? And the agents got into leadership in the Communist Party, split the Communist Party into two groups, and eventually FBI agents were the leaders of both groups. Are y'all with me? And since they were the leaders of both groups, they're undercover, they made the Communist Party fight and kill each other until there was no Communist Party. That's the COINTELPRO towards the Communist Party. But see, when black people started to rise, J. Edgar Hoover told his agents that when it comes to black people, it's no holds barred. Do whatever you got to do to destroy every black leader. Y'all got that? Some black leaders? No, every black leader. Let's see. What did the government do to try to destroy the Nation of Islam? Are y'all with me? Before we even go into that. Now see, you have to know the motive of J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover was a Shriner. A Shriner, and I have a picture of, some people may call him Gay Edgar because he was gay. But I have a picture of J. Edgar Hoover in his Shriner's hat. Do y'all see that? Now, if you know anything about Shriners, you know that they study Islam, right? You know anything about Shriners, you know that they study Islam. And they read the Holy Quran. So if they read the same book that we read, then they know the same things as far as the prophecies that we know. Let's see, what did the government do to destroy the Nation of Islam? First thing you need to know is there's never been a study of COINTELPRO activities against the Nation of Islam. They got it against the Black Panthers, they have it against everyone else except the Nation of Islam. Now, they found out in their research that the quickest way to divide black people is to find out, or is to say that they've been misappropriating the money. That's the quickest way. That's why when you ever hear anything about a black leader, they always say they did something with the money. What did they say after the Million Man March? What happened to all the money? Is that right? What did they say against Ben Chavis? He was stealing money from the NAACP. Because what do they always say about Minister Farrakhan? Oh, he live in that big old mansion and y'all poor, right? They always use money because they know most black people are poor. But they found out that's the quickest way that we'll leave our leaders. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of what they did to the Nation of Islam. Now, in the city of Dallas, at that time in the 60s, there was no official minister there. So the minister in Houston had to travel to Dallas to do the meetings. Y'all follow what I'm saying? One Sunday he's in Houston, the next Sunday he's in Dallas. So the FBI started the rumor that in Houston they said, oh, he got a woman in Dallas, that's why he leave every other Sunday. And in Dallas they said, he's taking the money back to Houston. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And they eventually divided both of those mosques. You understand what I'm saying? With rumors. That's why when you come into the Nation of Islam, we don't spread rumors. We don't believe in gossip and slander like many of us do in the church. You follow what I'm saying? Let's move on. What else did they do? Now, the FBI made two black organizations, the Black Panthers and a group called the United Slaves, started by Maulana Karenga. Sent letters to each group talking about each other, and they ended up going to war with each other with guns. Some Black Panthers were killed. Y'all heard of the Republic for New Africa? Okay. Now, they sent letters from the Republic of I'm talking about the FBI. They used their stationery, sent letters to the members of the Nation of Islam, and said, Elijah Muhammad is stealing y'all's money. You heard that before, right? Farrakhan be stealing y'all money. You mean Farrakhan let y'all drive cars? Crazy stuff like that, right? Now, and so that started a conflict between the Republic of New Africa and the Nation of Islam. Then in Chicago, they tried to pit the Black Panthers against the Nation of Islam by telling the Muslims that the Black Panthers are trying to take over your corner where you sell papers. And then they told the Black Panthers, the Muslims are going to come beat y'all up. And see, we don't carry guns, but the Black Panthers do. So they tried to turn the Black Panthers' guns against the Nation of Islam, but that didn't work. Then, in Mobile, Alabama, guess what? There were no black nationalist groups in Mobile. None. So what did the FBI say? They didn't say, oh, well, forget about it. Nah. They said, okay, well, make a group, invent a group, start a group, and then make that group fight another group that you made. So when they make a group, then sincere people come in, right? Then they make another group and sincere people come in. Then they make those groups fight each other. So they'll never make any progress. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, y'all with me? Now, this is what the FBI said about the Nation of Islam. Y'all ready? For years, the Bureau has operated a counterintelligence program against the Nation of Islam and Muhammad. Despite these efforts, he continues unchallenged in the leadership of the Nation of Islam, and the organization itself, in terms of membership and finances, has been unaffected. All that they did to destroy the nation, they had to admit that none of it worked. The FBI is the ones that started the lie that the Nation of Islam are not real Muslims. You've heard that before, right? That was started by the FBI. They, in 1958, had lists of every mosque and every leader in every mosque. They put Malcolm X on the list of subversives in the United States. They started tapping the most honorable Elijah Muhammad's phone, pay attention, January 4th, 1957, 24-hour surveillance on the honorable Elijah Muhammad. Y'all got that? So now, in 1959, that's when they decided that they must destroy the Nation of Islam. In 1959, I'm moving quickly. So they planted stories in the white newspapers about the Nation of Islam. Now, many newspapers agreed to work with the FBI, and the FBI would write the news article just like they do today, pass it on to the newspaper, and the newspaper would print the article as if that newspaper researched it and wrote it. Now, here are the newspapers that were working for the FBI. The Chicago Tribune, Jet and Ebony. Did y'all hear that? Jet and Ebony. Time Magazine, U.S. News and World Report, Saturday Evening Post, Esquire, Confidential, Newsweek, Detroit Free Press, True, and Saga, all printing articles about the Nation of Islam written by the FBI. The reason is because the FBI never wanted black people to have leadership. See, if you want to know who really assassinated Malcolm X, then you have to look at the government. Those are the ones who are responsible for the assassination of Malcolm X. Let's deal with it. Y'all ready to deal with it? Now, in 1963, Kennedy was assassinated, right? November 22nd, 1963. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad sends letters out to all of his ministers, make no mention of the assassination of the president, right? December 1st, 8 days later, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Malcolm X to cancel the program on December 1st. Malcolm X begged the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said, can we still do it? We paid for the auditorium. We paid to put out the flyers. Can we still have it? He said yes, but make no mention of the assassination of the president. Malcolm X comes to the speech, does the speech. At the end, a reporter asked him the question, what do you think about the assassination of Kennedy? He said, chickens coming home to roost never made me sad. Chickens coming home to roost always made me glad. Is that right? Yes, and then the white press took it and put it all over the world, right? Now, some of you will say, well, see, if y'all believe that they devils anyway, why would you care that he said something about Kennedy, even though what he said was true? Why do we care? Because we have Muslim women that may have to walk home from work or catch the bus, right? We have children that are going home from school. We have innocent people who know nothing about Malcolm's comment, but who may suffer as a result of Malcolm's comment. Because people love Kennedy. And if you come out saying, oh, I'm glad he died, then you and people who you represent will suffer, right? And may be killed as a result. Y'all remember when the Twin Towers got knocked down? How they started just beating up Arabs, right or wrong? Because they thought that the people that did it were Arabs, so they took it out on Arabs. See, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a wise man. He said, make no mention of the president's death because he knew that that would incite the black people's anger and white people's anger towards the Nation of Islam. And innocent people could lose their life. But Malcolm X made the comment. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad silenced him for 90 days, right? If you read the FBI file, they say that now that he's been silenced, that they had another plan to split Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. They don't say what the plan was, but we know that their plan was effective. Is that right? So now let's look at it. The government engineered the split between the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. They say, well, they found out that Elijah Muhammad had all these wives, right? And Malcolm X said, well, Elijah Muhammad is not the man who I thought he was, because I found out that he had all these girlfriends or wives, right? Now let's deal with it. Was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad an immoral man? Was he sleeping around? And then when Malcolm X found out, then Malcolm X said, I can't be with this man no more. Because he said one thing, but he did the other thing. Is that right? Now, I want you to think with me. Now remember, you have to judge the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by what's in this book. Right? The Holy Quran. He is the messenger of God. Every man of God, all of them. Well, not everyone, not Jesus. But the prophets of God had more than one wife. Is that right? Abraham had 3 wives. Moses had 2 wives. Solomon had 1,000 wives. Right? David had 3 wives. All of the men of God had more than one wife. And see, because our minds are so filthy, we think having more than one wife is just so you can have sex with more than one woman. That's what we think. But polygamy is not like that. See, what we have in the world, where you just lay down and get up and go on about your business, and we have all these orphans and all these baby mamas, that's what we have. That's not what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was engaged in. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Minister Farrakhan,